here. I heard from a lot of people that they wanted to come but were unable to come today. And so really appreciate Reverend Nieta allowing us to tape this, record it. So it'll be posted on the website and probably our YouTube channel, whatever. We'll make sure everyone has the links so they could watch it. You can watch it again if you might have missed something, or share it with friends. So it's my privilege to introduce Reverend David Nieta. He is the
Associate Director.
Associate Director of the Methodist Faith Foundation. And I just, I know you guys, you've been in the church a long time. This is home and family, and you've generously given. And I know at my stage in life anyway, I'm thinking about how can I leave a more lasting legacy when I'm gone, what happens here. And it really came to mind now that we've received a recent gift of the $80,000 from Jesse and Marion Corder that the committees and ad council are looking at how to use in the church. So I thought this is very timely to help us learn the ways to be able to give to the church when we're gone, to do it easily, be the most tax beneficial, and in a way that isn't too restrictive. So with that, I will let Reverend Nieta take over.
Thank you so much, Susan, and I appreciate you all coming. Thanks to Jim. He came and talked to me before the service and said he's been exposed. He won't be here. He was here today, right? He did a wonderful job, great sermon. And of course, thank you, Susan, for the invitation. And so let me just open with a word of prayer. Lord, as we come before you today and consider legacy planning, the legacy of this church, and the ways we can contribute to it, we ask that you would give us this opportunity to share and talk and wonder about how we might be a part of the Kent legacy. We give you thanks for today's worship and the Rally Sunday and all that you have provided for this church. And we lift this up in the name of Christ. Amen. So I want this to be an informal conversation, and I feel a little bit like I should stand up here, but would it be, I don't know camera-wise if it's okay if I would come down a little bit and maybe even just chat with you guys, if that's okay. Would that be okay camera-wise? Okay. So, and I'm gonna have to do this because I think we're recording. I hope that there be questions that you might have, and we'll do our best to answer them as we can. But let me, one second here. So we do have a little slide presentation, and I want to share with you the roadmap for today, and we'll go through this pretty quickly. The roadmap for today, I do. Here are all of them. So here's the roadmap for today. Planned giving and why. Powers of bequest and wills. Pathway to give, and finally, if there are questions that you might have. So quickly, what is planned giving? Well, planned giving is having some sort of a will or trust, something in which will direct your assets in whichever direction you wish them to be directed once you've passed away. It tells everyone what you want to have done. And while it's not easy to think about our demise, our passing, it's really important, I think, for our families that we're prepared for that. There have been occurrences where families really struggle when it's not clear what the person who's passed away wanted to have happen, and There was a story about a 4-post bed that I heard, that 3 brothers and one sister, and it was mom's bed. Sister said, I want the bed. Or mom said I could have the bed. Where did mom say that? And it just creates a conversation that maybe you didn't need to have, right? So, and generally speaking, people would prefer to direct their resources towards their passions and priorities, like their family, like their church, like charity organizations, rather than somewhere else. And there are tax advantages as well. I wanted to show you, I have a legacy planning guidebook, and I'll start it off here with Sydney. There's a sign-in sheet going around. If you'd like a PDF of this, I can send it to you, but you can take a look at it and see if you think it would be helpful. It's just a guidebook that you can fill out all the information you need and take it to your advisor or to your attorney or whomever you're working with as you develop your plan. It's just a place to gather all the information. All right, so the question is, what we don't realize, maybe, when we're here, is that there are only 3 places that, I'm going to skip ahead here. There are only 3 places that our assets can go, right? Everything has to go somewhere, but there are only 3. Can you guess what they are? Family. Charities. The dead money pile? Not there you go, Sydney. I'll let you speak into the mic on that one.
Government.
The government. 3, so the idea of planned giving is to be able to direct your assets and I'm going to skip ahead a couple slides here, and maximize, of course, maximize your gifts to family and friends. Maximize your gifts to your beloved charities, this church especially, and minimize portions that might go to the government. And that's what we're going to talk about in planned giving today. So, before we dive into the exact pathways, I just wanted to give you a chance to reflect. And, there are a lot of amazing things that are going on in this ministry. Just sitting here on one Sunday, it was fantastic to hear about all the different efforts and the ways in which you are being sent out into the world. And it really is an important thing to think about how those things get funded. Now, Susan said that you guys are doing a great job with stewardship, and you're doing fantastic, but planned giving is an area that we're trying to bolster here, so that's excellent why we're having this workshop. But people give for all kinds of different reasons, and it's the missional opportunities that I think really trigger those kind of gifts. Serving a church in Seattle, I had a person, as we were going through some changes in the church and actually changing kind of worship styles and adding services, and this little old lady, literally a little old lady about this big, who would not have benefited from the changes herself personally, because she liked the way it was. She liked being in the sanctuary, she liked the way things were, but she came up to me and said, I've been thinking a lot about, you've been talking about leadership development, I've been thinking a lot about that. I think it's important. Can you use $50,000? And I said, after I picked my jaw off the floor, yes. In fact, we're going to a leadership conference, and I told everybody on that team they had to take days off work and pay, and now we can pay for them. And that fund, and the other thing I said to the team is, we got this grant, or we got this gift from Sumi, and if you have this experience, will you you kick back into the fund. And that fund grew, right? And provided seed money, and it grew, and then she gave money in her bequest after she passed away as well. So you just never know where things come. At the Pioneer Church in Walla Walla, they used that old-fashioned thermometer, right? They had a huge narthex, beautiful, that they built. And that thermometer was just kind of hanging out there below the full amount. And finally, another little old lady came in and said, "I'm tired of seeing this thermometer. How much actually do you need?" And she wrote the check. You just never know how people will respond to providing plenty of opportunities like plan giving training may provide something that you didn't expect and didn't know. Let's see here. So I guess as people involved in the church, you might want to think about both how you respond to intentional asks, like stewardship, like a pledge campaign, how you respond to that and being responsive to that, but also kind of being open to the Spirit. Where am I being nudged? In what directions am I being nudged? I don't know why I'm being nudged that way. Nobody else seems to be being nudged that way, or at least I haven't heard, but I'm being nudged towards this ministry or support, or, my heart's pouring out when I hear this story about, school baths, school lunches, or whatever it is that you hear. Well, maybe that's a prompting of the Spirit that is leading you. So to be open to both, right, of intentional and also unsuspecting possibilities. All right, are there any, and one quick thing, I guess, for people at home and people here, just take 30 seconds and think about one ministry here that really kind of rings out to you, that you feel, gosh, that is an important thing. Can you think of one thing, one ministry here at Kent, or group, or outreach, or activity? So that may be you can think of 10. Yeah, you can think of 10 with. Yeah, so George, you bring a great point. So if you didn't hear, maybe for people at home, George asked whether we should think of directing a gift to a specific ministry or directing a gift to general, like to the church operations fund in general, and let the leadership of the church at the time kind of discern where the best place to be. And I think that the answer is that if a specific gift is what motivates you, of course, give to that particular area. But if you see the broader ministry and all that's happening as something you want to support, then a gift, unrestricted gift, is the best way to go. And I think that I've seen churches wrestle with leadership, wrestle with these kind of gifts and say, wow, what were the Adamses, what were they passionate, what focus, and and they take that so seriously, and they want to honor. So if you're worried about, your gift, well, the leadership, what are they going to do? They're going to go to Hawaii or something with it? They take it so seriously, and they want to make sure that they, think about who the persons are who gave, and maybe one of the areas that they're, passionate about, or what would make sense to them. This is a practical guy. I think he would want us to do this or that, and so they try to honor that. And I think to trust the leadership is one of the things that we try to encourage, because you're right. There have been people who have given to. There was a church, not here, but when I was in seminary, who gave to the VHS fund. Okay? So only that money could be used for VHS tapes because they were supporting education, right? And you use the VHS tapes to show videos. So maybe the conversation would have been, well, education ministries of the church, because things change. Exactly what George said. Things change. Yeah. It does. Every church does have those kind of categories. All right. So there are 8 pathways that I want to talk about giving. 8 pathways to giving, and we'll just kind of go through them. So we have the bequest or gift, provision in a will, qualified charitable distribution, retirement and beneficiary designations, appreciated stock, bargain sale, life estate reserve, charitable gift annuity, and charitable remainder trust. All right. So the first is a bequest, right? The bequest, it's kind of old language, but and if you have a will, you've already kind of done this and understand this, but the act of giving assets such as stocks, bonds, jewelry, and cash to individuals or organizations through the provisions of a will. So that will says, I give X, Y, and Z to A, B, and C, right? In general, and this is where we just talked about, an undesignated gift or unrestricted gift is really helpful to a church, to church leadership, because things change, as George said, and who knows how things are going to be 30 years from now, right? In like I said with the VHS, in 1985, who knew that we would be streaming, right? And so to let the leadership know, there's another cautionary story about a church that received a beautiful grand piano from a bequest, and the bequest was to be received. The bequest was stated that if they receive the piano, it stays in the sanctuary, right? Great, they used it many years, but 30 years, 40 years, the piano was getting old. They actually moved the piano from the front to the back of the sanctuary, still in the sanctuary, but it took up the whole space behind the pews. So new pastor came and said, well, can we move this? Oh, we'd love to, but, the woman who gave this wanted it in the sanctuary. So they called the family members, and one of the grandsons came, and they asked, he looked at it, and he goes, yeah, it's not in very good shape, but, if this is what Grandma wanted, I can't go against that. So, this is all to say general or unspecified, or how we call it, gifts, unrestricted gifts, I think are most helpful for a church. All right, let's see. Giving also is as an endowment. Now, so an endowment would be if you said in your will, I give $20,000 as an endowment, and I would only the interest and dividends is what can be spent, and the principal must remain in perpetuity, right? So, many times people will want to give, be more inclined to give if it's an endowment, meaning that their gift will stay in perpetuity. Oftentimes, though, churches will receive a gift that's unrestricted, and as leaders try to self-discipline and say, whoa, so-and-so was, thoughtful enough to give through her bequest to the church. We should set that aside and discipline ourselves and form what they call a quasi-endowment, right? So it's an endowment that was set by the board that we're going to keep this principle intact, and we're going to use only the dividends and interest. So, however, I guess I'm just trying to say is that in my experience, church boards have been very responsible. So even if you gave as a non-endowment, just gave an unrestricted gift to say, out of my estate, I want to give this to the church, that the church leadership that I've experienced has been very careful and sometimes will restrict themselves to make sure that it doesn't get, blown on a new statue to somebody out in front, or whatever it is, a fountain, or whatever someone else thinks would be a good idea. Okay, within the terms of a bequest, you can give, a specific gift. Like in this case, the house goes to Mary, the brokerage account to John, the car to Jeff. So very specific in your will. You can direct specific gifts. Other people will use percentages. Now, this is not a very equitable, if they're siblings, it's not a very equitable distribution. But for illustration purposes, right, 65 to Mary, 25 to John, 10 to Jeff. Let's see here. So within these two gifts as well, there might be stuff left over, right? And that's where you can also provide a residual gift, which is just stuff that's left over, percentage-wise. It could be that if you established a trust and you said, well, this percentage of my trust will go here and here and here, that there might be stuff left outside the trust that you didn't include for whatever reason. That might be a residual gift. So I was just telling George, we as a family established a will and a trust. We just did it. We finished it a week and a half ago. And it's a very daunting process. So if you're intimidated by it, we were intimidated as well. But one of the things that they set up for us in the trust was what we call pour over will, right? So if, while our trust is meant to include everything, there may be stuff that's left outside that trust that we don't really know about. Sometimes bank accounts get forgotten or whatever. That pour over will cover the rest of whatever's left over. And that may be a way for the church to benefit, for you to provide for your church, to say, if there is anything left over, anything that we've forgotten about, we'll leave it to the church. Or, we'll make the church a contingent beneficiary on that leftover stuff. And it's not insignificant. I did hear that the University of Puget Sound, back in the day when they were building their endowment, that's how they built their endowment. They went to alumni and said, just, because we want individuals to take care of their families, right? That's the most important. That's the highest priority. And then we want people to be able to direct their assets towards charities that they are engaged in and love and want to see go forward. UPS was able to say to the alumni, and we know it was a great experience when you were coming here, and it's been 40 years since you've been on the campus, but we're still going. Would you think about it as a residual gift? And that's how they built their endowment, right? All right. So maybe Kent, a residual beneficiary, might be an incredible gift to this church. All right. So, any questions so far? Yeah. Sure.
That's very similar to studies have shown with lottery winners. You think, oh, that's a lot of money, it's going to change their life. And oftentimes it doesn't. It's been more of a curse, I guess. Negative.
Yeah, so the comment here for those who are watching the recording is from George is that there have been reports and studies recently, maybe not so recent, but they've emerged that giving a large chunk of money to family, maybe a child who's not kind of ready for that experience, it doesn't always have a positive impact. And that's just to kind of to beware, right? And to be thinking about your family and how you might structure your estate plan to help protect that. We in our trust, our kids are 21 and 16, so we have put in trustees that would be in place, and they would be beneficiaries and be under the care of trustees till I think it was 25. And that still may be a little bit young, but, yeah.
My mom and dad, their will, they both passed, was there's four of us to divide their estate 4 ways equally and give us 10% a year for 10 years.
Oh, okay. So your parents.
Instead of doing one big chunk of money that goes into whatever you want, we have 10% a year.
10% a year. So your parents, when your parents passed away, they put in a rider that said 10% a year for 10 years, and then after 10 years, then whatever's left over then went. Okay. That's that's pretty smart. So, and how was that experience for you?
Well, I'm in the middle of it, so it's doing just fine.
Yeah.
But I guess you could do that as a charitable donation too. If you didn't want a big bill, can that be given to a church that way too?
Yes, it can. In fact, there were a couple of individuals who they were very wealthy, and they knew that they're very, very humble as well. But they knew that their pledge, their offering, really covered a lot of the church budget. And as they got older, they were worried about what would happen if you lose 20% of your church budget from one giver, or whatever it was. That could really kind of shock the system. So what they did was they created a ladder of giving that would happen over 10 years upon their passing, that would decrease over those 10 years until the church was able to kind of recalibrate, right? And so yes, most definitely those can be done. And I think that is something to think about in terms of especially if you feel like I want my gift to continue with keeping the lights on, and year after year, you might think about that kind of schedule that would allow the church to receive your offering, your pledge until, and have it kind of decrease until 10 years and whatever time span you would like. So, moving on here to kind of the language, and I won't read this to you. It's in the Legacy Planning Guidebook, and your attorney as well would have language for you to use. The only thing I wanted to say about this is make sure you're specific about who you're giving that gift to, right? So the example that we use is that there was a couple who gave the church to Trinity United Methodist Church, and they were in East Wenatchee, where the Trinity Church was, and that's where they raised their family. And then family grew up, moved away. They moved to Seattle. Parents said, well, we want to be close to the kids. They moved to Seattle and joined Trinity United Methodist Church in Seattle. And their will said, we give X dollars to Trinity United Methodist Church. So then it was up to the community to figure out, and the family to figure out, which Trinity? So the only thing is just to be specific. And there are other Kent United Methodist churches, I believe, in the nation, right? So, yeah. So, just to be specific, where this place is, what's the address, and even, as we evolve as a denomination, if there's a name change to the denomination, it could be, to include any future iteration of this place, right? All right, so I think we've gone through this very basic part of bequests. Any questions about this? So, the next thing that we want to talk about here are qualified charitable distributions. And maybe you're already using those now, but if you are 72 and you are taking a required minimum distribution from your IRA, the way, and this will be kind of a confession, but the way my mom does it is she gets deposited into her bank, and then she writes a check to the church. When actually, you can talk to your IRA administrator and have that distribution directly contributed to wherever, whether it's this church or any charity, and it stays off your tax schedule, and you can make those donations as you need to. I when I did a workshop in Kelso early on, the woman who just sat next to me said, "I'm so mad. I'm 70 and a half. This was back before it was 72, and they're making me take money out of my IRA. I don't need it. I'm getting taxed on it, and I don't like it." So I said, "Oh, hey, you might want to consider this." So it's just another pathway to go. We have, let's see. You can talk to your administrator, and they can send that. Does anybody do that already? Yeah. So you guys, I'm talking to the choir here. Yeah, Lynn. Right. It counts towards your required minimum distribution. Exactly. And by doing that, you'll leave it off your income, taxable income schedule. So that's right. That's right, your requirement. Yes, it does count toward your minimum distribution requirement. Okay. So you all are familiar with this, or it feels like you're familiar with it. So you can contribute up to $100,000 from your IRA. And there's the information there. It is sent directly from your IRA to the church. It counts towards your required minimum distribution, and it is tax exempt, tax free. I have a few brochures on that, and you can put them on your narthex or wherever it would be helpful. And if you need more, you can let us know. Okay. No questions on that? We're going to move right along here, doing time-wise. So beneficiary designations. So there, and I won't spend too much time on this, but for accounts, retirement accounts, insurance accounts, so insurance accounts, life insurance, annuities, retirement accounts, you needed to select a beneficiary to that, right? And a beneficiary supersedes any will or trust. Beneficiary designations go through probate, do not go through probate, excuse me. And just to be careful to update those if you needed to update those. If, for instance, if you put spouse number 1 back in the day as your beneficiary designation and you're no longer married to spouse number 1 but married to spouse number 2, it doesn't matter what your will says. Spouse number 1 is the beneficiary unless you change that designation. So just to make sure those are updated with whomever you have beneficiary designations with, as well as for accounts, bank accounts, things like that, to establish a transfer on death form, right? So that you may have put your assets in a trust, and the trust would then take care of it. But if those are outside the trust, to set up a transfer upon death designation, which basically says, upon your death, whoever you designate can just take over your account. And it's a very simple process. That is a gift that you can give to your beneficiaries, right? Because it's a little bit awkward for a child to have that conversation with their parent, to say, you kind of feel a little bit like the prodigal son, Mom, Dad, you're going to die one day, and we'd like the easiest way to get a hold of me, so can you sign this transfer on death? It might be better for you to kind of present that to your kids and say, we'd like to set this up for you so it'll be easier. All right. Any questions about that? I have a little quiz here. As we were thinking about designations, we have, in this little quiz, we have a woman, I think I call her Martha, I'm not sure if it's on there, but she has $1 million estate. And just so happened that her home was worth $333,000. She has stocks and bonds worth $333,000. And she has an IRA worth $333,000. So the question is, of these, if she were to want to evenly give this between her son, daughter, and the church, which one might she designate to the church? You mean like 1/3 of the home, 1/3 of the stocks, and 1/3? Okay, all right, 1/3 of the IRA. Okay. Any other guess? Good. So you would say stocks and bonds. Good. Okay, because you're already drawing from your IRA, and it may not have as much in there as you're like. Okay. Which? Any other guesses here? Actually, the answer is the IRA. And there's a reason for that. when someone gets a home, a child or niece or nephew, whomever, inherits a home from you, that home then is now the tax basis is stepped up to the current value of the home. So you may have bought it for $30,000, and now it's worth $333,000. Well, that would be the new tax stepped up basis, right? $333,000. Stocks and bonds, same thing. It's a stepped up basis, right? So you inherit those stocks and bonds as their value. IRA. What kind of money funds that IRA? Pre-tax money. So when that money gets inherited by an individual, they then are responsible for the taxes on that because you pay taxes on your IRA. It's ordinary income. What kind of an organization is the church? Nonprofit, tax exempt, right? I don't think you pay any income taxes here, right? So if you do, yeah. So the tax would then receive that full value of the IRA, right? So as you're thinking about beneficiary designations, you're thinking about which assets might be helpful to go to the church. As you're thinking about it, and in this example, it's the full amount, right? All of it in these three categories. Whatever you feel, as you want to leave as a legacy gift. If you're gonna give some money, you might want to think about designating that out of your IRA. All right. Any other questions? All right, moving on here. Appreciated stock. Oh, Len, did you have something? You're just... They inherit the house at a stepped-up value, yes. Let's just say if they inherit this house and then they sell it, right? They would pay taxes on the value, the change in value between when they inherited it and the selling price. It wouldn't go back to the day you bought the house. So that gain is stepped up. Does that make sense? I think it's capital gains. Yeah. Yeah. Well, 15%. Yeah, well, let's just say, you're right, they only have to pay capital gains at 15%, but let's just say that house was valued when they inherited it from you at $333,000, and they held on to it for a year, hot Seattle market, and it goes up to $400,000 in a year, right? And they can sell for $400,000. They would be responsible for that capital gains from $130,000 to $400,000, so $67,000. That's what they would be responsible for, that gain. No, they would not. If there's no gain. If there's no gain from when you inherited it to when you sell it. From the inherited amount. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, it did change hands, but and I'm not a tax expert on this, but it's my understanding that it's a stepped up basis on real estate or on a house. Yeah, I don't know about investment property, but yeah. Lisa.
Know if the kids had to pay estate tax on that. I don't remember what the estate tax was if the kids inherit the house, $100,000 and turn it around and sell it.
They have to pay capital gains tax on state tax. I think there's an exemption in Washington State. Yeah, I've got it in my notes here. Let me see if I can find it. It's I believe it's 2.1 million. 2.3 million. I will find it. But yeah, Len, it is my understanding that it is that when you inherit a house, the stepped up basis moves up to the current value of the house, which is a pretty good thing. And I'll find that. So, remind me, George, it's in my notes somewhere. I don't want to give you the wrong number. So, moving to appreciated stock. Basically, if you've bought stock in let's say you bought Amazon or Microsoft back in the day, and now you've got a whole bunch of capital gains going, right? So you will owe capital gains taxes on those appreciated stock if you cash them out. You can donate that stock and avoid those or bypass those capital gains taxes and create a tax deduction for yourself. For us, our role in that is if most churches do not have their own brokerage firm, so they have no way of handling stock. We can do that for you. What we'll do is, and we do receive stock gifts every day almost, and they'll tell their broker there's a form you can fill out, tell their broker to send 5 shares of Amazon stock to Kent United Methodist Church. But here's the information. It's through Faith Foundation Northwest, and there's a DTC number, all that. You can have that stock transferred over to our account. You let us know that you're doing that. Call us up and let us know. Hey, I'm donating. My name is David Nieta. I'm donating 5 shares of Microsoft stock or Amazon stock to Kent United Methodist Church. It should be coming in the next day or so. You can drop into our account. We liquidate it, send a check out to Kent. And there's up to a $5 transaction fee. Sometimes it's less, just depending. And we do that as part of our ministry. So that's another way you can donate to the church and avoid some capital gains taxes. And I've got brochures on that as well. All right.
Is that, I'm sorry, I might be confused, but is that a way that a person could make their annual donations to the church as well?
Sure. Yes, exactly. So let's say you made a pledge commitment for $10,000, and you had some Amazon stock or Microsoft stock that was valued at that, and you bought it back in the day, you've got these gains. You can certainly direct your administrator to send Microsoft stock and say, this is going to go to Kent United Methodist Church. We'll know that. We'll know, you tell us, and we'll know to send the check to Kent. You need to let Kent know, hey, this is my annual, pledge. And then they can credit that, right? And let them know, we will not say on the check, this came from George Adams, but you need to let them know that a check's coming from Faith Foundation Northwest, and it's my annual gift. And also, your broker won't know. They'll just know to sell it, right? So you'll have to let us know, hey, it's coming, so that we can process it, right? I've gotten calls from brokers who've said, we have this. How do I do this? I'm just sending some shares of this fund to you all, but I don't know how to do that. They asked me to do it, and so we talk them through it. But they have no idea what the relationships are. Yeah. Fantastic question. So the question is, if you wanted to donate stock, does the broker sell the stock and then send the check over, or does the stock go to the foundation? The stock needs to go to the foundation, because as soon as that broker sells that stock, you've got a taxable event. But you donate the stock, you've donated it to, I guess legally it's been donated to Faith Foundation, right? We're a nonprofit. But we know that you're doing it on behalf of Kent. You let us know that. It's coming on behalf of Kent. And then that's when we'll liquidate it. We've already received the stock as a donation. We'll liquidate it and then send the check to Kent. Right. This is part of our ministry. There's some administrative, work that has to happen to make that happen, but that's absorbed in just our work, and so the fee comes to make that transaction.
So that would, pardon me, that would have the effect of doing what we just talked about. And that is the same as what Len talked about having your 401k money, your required minimum distribution from 401k. In essence, it's an equal transaction. Is that correct?
Exactly. So the question was, the stock appreciated gift is similar to Len's reference to the IRA required minimum distribution, and that's correct, right? So if you have a required minimum distribution that you have to take out of your IRA, you will be taxed on that at ordinary income. That's part of your income for the year. If you donate that IRA directly to the church, it bypasses your ordinary income because you didn't see it. Now, you could have it deposited in your account and write the check, which is valid as well. It's just that that will become part of your income then, right? So, yeah, Len. That's exactly right. So what Len was saying is that if you receive your minimum distribution into your account and write a check, and we'll hope that donation amount will cover your standard deduction. The standard deduction has gone high, or is pretty high. Looks like single or married filing separately is $13,850, and if you're married is $27,700, right? So $27,700. So
It takes a fair amount of donations in any year to exceed that. So what some people do is in 1 year, make all their donations in cash so that they have enough to exceed
the minimum right. So some people will bundle their donations. Yeah, and say, I'm going to give 3 years this year. And it's then up to the organization to, be able to budget that out, right? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Great conversation. Appreciate this. Okay, so moving on to the next thing here, bargain sale. So bargain sale is if you have an appreciated asset like real estate, a vacation home, or a farm, and you'd like to see or like to donate a portion of that asset to a charity, you can utilize a bargain sale. A bargain sale is the sale of a good or service to a charitable organization for less than fair market value of the good or service received. So donors who often wish to make a charitable donation to an organization in a form other than cash can use a bargain sale. So let me just go through an example here, and maybe it'll be a little more clear. And it's, again, these are different pathways, and they're not exactly right for everyone. All of them are not exactly right for everyone, but I'm trying to give you a full example of possibilities. And as you talk with people, or as you hear their stories, there may be, something from this presentation where yeah, so-and-so has a home. They said, gosh, I'd love to donate my home to the church. Oh, well, okay. But I have some income needs, perhaps. Let's take a look at this. So there was a family, 20 years or so ago from the Oregon, Idaho Conference, who had a beach house. Their name were the Thompsons. They had a beach house that they had built and they used as a family vacation compound for many, many years. And about 10 years ago, their families had grown up by then. They had gotten older. It was harder to maintain. So they were thinking about selling. At the same time, they had heard about a ministry that they were very passionate about at one of the camps down there in Oregon, Idaho, right? And so they thought, well, gosh, maybe we can make this thing work so that we can make a donation to the camp and save some taxes. And so what they ended up doing, after doing some work calculating, they figured they needed $240,000 of income for the next 10 years. So, they wanted, what was that? What did I come up? $24,000 a year, $2,000 a month for the next 10 years that they wanted as income. And they wanted to make a donation to Magruder. So what they ended up doing was selling the beach house to the foundation for $240,000. That money was set aside for them. And then the process of trying to sell this beach house became the responsibility of the foundation. So that's the bargain, right? You made a sale at a bargain to a charity. And the charity in this case was Faith Foundation Northwest on behalf of Camp Magruder, right? So there was eventually the home was sold, and his home was sold for $560,000, and there were some real estate fees. So in the end, the camp got $284,000, right? The Thompsons got their tax break, and they got their $2,000 a month income, which ended last month, actually, in August. I see you staring hard, and so I want to make sure that okay. Okay. So, yeah. RV, so the question is if you had something smaller than a house, like an RV. That's a really good question. I think vehicles in general are not something that would work in this situation. An RV, though, kind of straddles that a little bit, right? Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. So I'd have to get back. I'm not sure about RVs. Yeah. Yeah. A timeshare. That's a really good question. I'm not. Right. I think the question would be the you know, is this property or is this thing sellable, right? If it's not sellable, because the foundation or the church, Kent's not going to hold on to the timeshare. I mean, they might need a RV out in front, but maybe, I'm not sure they would be happy with that, right? So is this thing sellable? And that, I think that would, I'm sorry? Does it appreciate? Right, right, exactly. And unfortunately, a lot of vehicles don't appreciate. So just, and sorry for sounding convoluted there. Yeah, okay. Right, it's not for everybody, exactly. The bargain's not for everybody. But if you do have a piece of property that has appreciated but you see, like for this story, which is, a true story, of course, but it sort of came together at the right time, right? The passion for the camp, the capital campaign at the camp, the decision prior to sell this beach house, all kind of came together at the same time. So it's just information to kind of keep, and for a lot of these presentations, it may not sound like right to you right now, one of these pathways, but it could, maybe 3 months later, something shifts and you're like, oh yeah, now I've got this thing, I want to figure out what to do with it. And what was that presentation? Give us a call and we'll help you, talk through it, because we want, we know you want to support Kent and the ministry here, and we want to help you do that, definitely. All right. The next pathway, life estate reserved. So a life estate reserved is a transfer of property ownership to a charitable organization with the provision to allow you and whomever you name to remain in the house until their death, right? So this is if you don't really have cash or funds that you would want to donate, but you would consider donating your house, but you need some place to live, right? You want to, and so you can create a life estate, which then would dictate that you can live there, or that whoever you designate can live there until their death, but the donation has been established through that life estate, and you would be able to remain in your home for the rest of your life. So I'll just moving on to the next slide here. You deed your home to the church. Include a provision that allows you to stay in your home for the rest of your life, or whoever you designate, right? You remain in your home, and you develop with the charity or the church an agreement for maintenance, insurance, and taxes, which you as the resident would be responsible for. And then upon your passing, the church will own your property, and they can use it or sell it or whatever they want to do with it. And the church could do this themselves. I mean, you could, if you have a very active trustee, you could do that yourselves. We could also help you do that, right? So there's somebody think, oh, we want to take this path, we can help guide you through that and help you figure that out. And it may be that it would be another case where the home would be donated to the foundation on behalf of Kent. And then when that person passes away or the house is unoccupied, then we consult with Kent. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want the deed? Or do you want us to sell it and you want the cash? What do you want to do? All right, any questions about that? We're in the home stretch. Thanks for being patient. The next one is charitable gift annuity, or CGA. So it's a gift vehicle that involves a contract between the donor and a charity, right? So the donor transfers cash or property to a charity in exchange for a partial tax deduction and a lifetime income stream, annual income stream from the charity. Now you'll see how this works in just a minute. So oftentimes a charity would be large enough to establish their own charitable gift annuity, like a hospital or like a university. So Harvard University has their own charitable gift annuity program. Hospital has their own charitable gift annuity program, right? So, but in the case of local churches, you need to have that capital in place to be able to support the payments. So the Faith Foundation can act on your behalf as a charitable, as the beneficiary of a charitable gift annuity on your behalf, right? And then when that donor dies, the gift, whatever's left of the gift, will be passed on to the church. So let me kind of go through this in a little more detail. What's going on here? Oh, there it goes. All right, so a charitable gift annuity, again, is a sum of money that you contract with a charity about to try to receive some annual income as well as make a donation to the church. So let's just say, for instance, in this situation, a single female aged 70 who has bought some stock that was worth $10,000 when she bought it, but now it's worth $20,000. So she's got $10,000 of capital gains. If she sells that stock, she will owe $10,000 in capital gain, or she would be capital gain taxed on that $10,000, right? So there's a tax benefit if she donates that stock as a charitable gift annuity, or creates a charitable gift annuity with that stock. So here's what happens. When a single-age female age 70 establishes their charitable gift annuity, the annual income from that annuity would be 5.9%, right? So that would be your return on your gift. And some of that is taxed and some of that is tax exempt. If you were to live what the actuarial tables say a single female age 70 would live, you would live another 16 years and 9 months, right? If you were to pass away right when the actuarial tables say you pass away, your income would be $23,482 over that 16-year, 9-month period, right? The donation to the church would be approximately $20,000 if it had been invested we would hope it would be invested over that 16-year period. That would allow the gains to continue to grow into that charitable gift annuity. So it's an interesting vehicle, and there are people in this conference who've used that on behalf of churches. So what happens, let's say, if a person lives to be 103, way past the actuarial tables, dipping into the funds that they've put in and maybe even exhausting them? Well, the this is a contract established with Faith Foundation on behalf of our local church, the churches, and we would continue to pay, even if that original gift was exhausted because the person lived a long time, or the returns weren't as strong as we had anticipated. The annual income for the annuity would be 5.9 no matter what for that individual. So, in the best of possible worlds, the individual would receive a good amount, $23,000. Who donated $23,000 would receive over their lifetime $23,000 back in the contract as annual income, and the church would receive something as a donation, maybe $20,000 if things go pretty well. Any questions about that? We do have, like I said, several charitable gift annuities at the foundation. And the one thing we've discovered is that those who set up a charitable gift annuity, they live a long time, like over 100. So maybe if that's something that's in your plan, longevity, you might want to think about a charitable gift annuity. It's a guarantee, right? All right, and if you're curious about rates, because they changed according to the age, I have the rates here. It changes between married and single, but let's just say I printed these out just to see if you are 80 years old. Let's just see if I can find this here. And now let's go. If you're 80, if you're a married couple, 82 and 85, your return is 7.2%, which I think is pretty good. If you're 80 years old, and you and your spouse are 80, it's 6.5%. Yeah, and if you're single and 80, it's 7.6%. So that's just something to think about. Especially if you're thinking about making a donation anyway, right? If you were thinking, I'm going to gift this church this money, that's in my plan, that's in my head. Maybe a charitable gift annuity is right for you, and that's something just worth exploring. All right. Any questions about that? The last thing is this charitable remainder trust. So charitable remainder trust is similar to a charitable gift annuity, but it's funded with a lot more money, and it's a lot more expensive to maintain. It's a irrevocable trust, and it's a complicated enough process that you probably want an attorney to help you set that up. So you donate to the trust, and the assets that you donate to the trust no longer belong to you, but to the beneficiary of that trust. You would determine amounts to be dispensed to the trustor, which might be yourself, and also a charitable organization. And you determine the time period for that, right? And upon the conclusion of that time, the charity gets the proceeds of that trust. So, what it looks like graphically, and I know it's small there, but you've got, you make a contribution to the charitable remainder trust, the circle in the middle. There's a income stream that you establish in the trust for either yourself or maybe a beneficiary, which comes as a partial tax deduction or and an income stream. And so that trust is there. And then when the period that you've designated as a trust, or maybe it's your lifetime, that period is over, the remainder amount gets passed on to your charities. But again, those are for larger, I think larger accounts, larger amounts, 250,000 or larger, I think, because there's some cost to maintaining these trusts. And if it sounds something that you're interested in, please, please, please go talk to a real estate planning attorney and have them help you set that up so that you get exactly what you're looking for and that you're protected. Are there any estate planning attorneys in this congregation that you all know of? Okay. You have a tax attorney? Oh, you have someone local who does like IRS form like an accountant that does that. Yeah, yeah. So that would be a really important task for some of the leaders here to just find out if there's someone who's a trusted estate attorney. We happen to get lucky in our situation because we didn't realize this, but one of the clergy down in Vancouver district, his son is he's got a estate tax law firm, real estate estate planning law firm, and we sort of stumbled. We'd forgotten. We know him. We know the attorney outside of his profession. We just sort of stumbled upon it, and so. I don't know if there are kind of connections. Whatever, if there are people that have used attorneys that are trusted, that they trust, to kind of make those available so that people can go forward. I will tell you, I was telling George earlier, we just finished our own family process of developing a trust, and we've got kids who are younger, and it's. It can be a little daunting. I mean, it's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of terms being thrown at you, and directives and such. So to have someone you trust, I think, is really, really important, and that you can recommend to say you can walk them through the process and figure this out. So there are the 8 pathways. Just to see it again, bequest or gift provision, qualified charitable distribution. Remember, that's from your IRA, required minimum distribution. Your retirement and beneficiary designations, right? Appreciated stock. If you got stock that's grown, you can donate that to the church. Bargain sale, where you sell a piece of property at a discount. Life estate reserve, where you want to stay in the property, but you can donate that to the church. Charitable gift annuity, which is, again, that you contract out with the charity to be able to receive income and make a donation to the church at the same time. And charitable remainder trust, which is a CGA kind of larger. My colleague likes to say on steroids. So, and this is who we are at Faith Foundation. So, you see all of us there, and we're all willing to serve and answer questions and help in whatever way you can, because our ministry is to support you in this area for your ministry, because you're doing amazing work in Kent. I could see it in worship today, all the different things going on, and I just was so impressed. And I will leave you with this quote. A society grows great when its elders plant trees whose shade they'll never sit under, right? And so anyway, if there are no other questions, are there any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, I have brochures here. So come and grab one, and we can leave the rest on the narthex, but you can read more about it. You can also find us on the website at you can find more information on that at www.faith.foundation. Okay? All right.
Thank you, David. I'm Len Whalen with the church. And one thing that I want to expand on your quote, when we sit under those trees with our grandchildren, take time to read a parable.
Well, on that note, I could add something too, because when Pastor Jim and I were having discussions about this workshop, he reminded me that in the Bible it reminds us to give our best, our first and our best to God. And he said if we do that, that's in our 10% tithe, that's how he and Sandra look at their legacy giving and their estate planning, is they just continue on with their 10% tithe. So I thought that was a nice way to kind of end it, and almost our own prayer. David, we want to thank you. David came up from Vancouver, Washington today, so he's had a long trip up, and he's got to head back to Portland to take a flight out. So I want to make sure he gets on the road and gets there safely. But we really appreciate your time, the information, and we look forward to working with you more in the future. I know we'll have lots of questions and probably and training to do.
Send the questions our way of individuals who are, they don't, you didn't get this, or they don't get it, they don't understand it. We can help walk them through it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.